safer than the average city in the interior of the United States. Let's tell the story of our communities, including from local law enforcement, who tell us that when everyone has a shared stake in the success of our community, then everyone feels comfortable reporting a crime, testifying in a trial, serving as a witness, contributing to our safety and our security. Let's use our example, our life, our experiences to make sure that we take the lead in rewriting those laws in our own image. That will keep us more secure. And the last point, Senator John Cornyn, the senior Republican senator from the state of Texas, and I wrote legislation that would make us even more secure by ensuring that we have the staffing at our ports of entry that inspects everyone and everything that comes into this country while facilitating legitimate trade and travel connected to millions of jobs in Texas and throughout the country. Thank you for your question.
And Congressman, as a follow-up, you are opposed to pretty much every major immigration policy proposal coming from the Trump White House. So what is your plan to deter immigrants from coming across the border illegally?
First, let's make sure that our laws reflect our values and that we follow the laws that we have on the books right now. I would argue that the Trump administration has broken this country's very own asylum laws. People who are fleeing the deadliest countries on the planet today, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, who are doing what any human being, what Amy and I would do in the same situation, if it were the only way to save Ulysses and Molly and Henry's life, we're punishing them, taking their kids from them, turning those parents over to the Department of Justice, prosecuting them like common criminals, and deporting them back to the very to solve these problems of human misery at the border.
That's about asylum.
Of how we are safe
Isn't a real problem, you agree?
A couple of ideas here. One, let's make sure that we expand the capacity in our different visa categories. When we ask somebody to get to the back of the line right now, we may not realize that that line stretches 18, 20, 22 years. H-1B visas, there are 85,000 positions in a country of 320 million. We're not able to fill all of those high-skill, high-wage jobs here in this country with people here. Sometimes we need to attract those from other countries to be able to do that work. In other cases, it is people who are trying to join categories, working with folks from both sides of the aisle to do that. I mentioned freeing dreamers from any fear of deportation by making them U.S. citizens here. And then I also mentioned the legislation that John Cornyn and I worked on to strengthen security at our ports of entry. That's where the vast majority of everyone and everything that comes into this country first crosses. It has to be comprehensive. If we try to do this piecemeal through fences and walls or this measure or that, I don't think we'll ever get there. And that will inherently involve compromise and finding some consensus. That's the way that I want to work. And I think that's the way that people in Texas of all walks of life, all backgrounds, and all party affiliations want to help lead the country, the president of their own party. How they put their country ahead of their career or their next election or the politics of the moment. The best course to get there so that every member has all the facts and that they are compelling enough to do the right thing is to allow the full independence and integrity of the Bob Mueller investigation.
But you've already said, even though that's not done, that you would vote to impeach. And so, according to the Constitution, that means that the president has committed the crime of treason, bribery, or a high crime and misdemeanor. Which one of those do you think the president has committed?
I would liken impeachment to an indictment. There is enough there to proceed with the trial for a full vetting of the facts and to make the best informed decision in the interests of this country and our future. As you know, under the Constitution, as a member of the Senate, it's a far different bar. That is a trial with my colleagues where we look at the facts, and I would not prejudge the outcome of that trial. All I am saying is that there is enough there, and I think I laid out the case in both the collusion with a foreign power and the effort to obstruct justice going forward. I know that this is not politically easy, or convenient to talk about. But 242 years into this experiment, which is the exception, not the rule in world history. There's nothing that guarantees us a 243rd or a 244th. It's up to all of us to stand up for that democracy. The best way to do that is to express it on the 22nd of October, the first day of early voting, and then Election Day on the 6th of November. But yes, to answer your question, I do think there's enough there for impeachment. And if asked, I would vote on it. Now, I have not made this the mission of the campaign. I've never called for it at a rally, never sent a campaign email out about this. I'm not on any articles of impeachment for all of the reasons that I just gave you. I'm focused on the future. But yes, I want to answer your question honestly. And I think there's enough there to make sure that we move forward.
Congressman, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
A lot more to get to. Stay right there. We'll be back with more from CNN's Town Hall with Beto O'Rourke.
Thank you.
Grubhub is an app that lets you choose a restaurant, find food, and place your order. That's it. So you can skip straight to the part where your food arrives at your front door. Grubhub, restaurants you love, delivered.
Welcome to Mitsubishi. Want to take a test drive?
Would love it.
Mind if my daughter joins us?
Not at all.
Let's test out the sound system. Sure.
Sounds good.
Lay on the go. I'm looking all glamour and my 2019 Mitsubishi Outlander. Check 1, check 2, check 3. We all can ride because the third row seats can't get over something in blind spot. Don't worry, car happy when you got a blind spot.
Get up to $3,000 cash back or 0% APR and test drive any crossover for a chance to win.
Drive your ambition. Mitsubishi Motors.
We oftentimes separate business issues from people issues. We at SHRM believe they're inextricably intertwined. We're engaged in critical conversations about some of the most pressing HR issues of the day.
Think about the pending talent crisis.
Talent has no borders. It's really about finding the best and the brightest on the planet.
You want every employee to have a safe place where people can raise issues.
Join us as we have conversations with HR leaders from iconic American companies.
Most homeowners draw a blank when asked what their home projects should cost. That's why at Home Advisor, you can see what others paid for similar jobs in your area. Start your next home project knowing what you should pay. Go to homeadvisor.com or download the free app.
Sunday night, two candidates fighting from the edges of their parties. It's the race for governor no one predicted. Republican Ron DeSantis, Democrat Andrew Gillum. A live CNN debate. Jake Tapper moderates the Florida governor's debate. Sunday night at 8, only on CNN.
On the next Parts Unknown, Anthony Bourdain in Fort West, Texas.
Thank you for showing me this amazing place. Cheers.
Sunday at 9 on CNN.
How do you feel when someone is looking over your shoulder? Not all snoopers can be seen. Cyber criminals can steal your sensitive information. Hackers can intercept your data on public Wi-Fi. But not with the NordVPN app. It helps protect your privacy by encrypting your online data, and it's so easy to use. NordVPN, your shield from online snoopers. Download and enjoy trusted internet security and privacy.
My name is Jeff Sheldon, and I'm the founder of UgMonk. Before ShipStation, it was crazy. Like, it's great when you see, 100 orders come in, but then you realize I got 100 orders that I actually have to ship out. ShipStation streamlined that whole process. The order data, the weights of the items, everything is seamlessly put into ShipStation. So when we print the shipping label, everything's pretty much done. It's so much easier. So now we're ready, bring on the orders.
ShipStation, the #1 choice of online sellers. Go to shipstation.com/try and get 2 months free.
Election Night in America, Tuesday, November 6th on CNN.
Welcome back to the McAllen Performing Arts Center and CNN's Town Hall with Beto O'Rourke. For our viewers just joining us, Senator Ted Cruz declined our town hall invitation. And Congressman, I want to ask about the tone in this race here in Texas. It changed this week. You've been saying that people are sick of the pettiness and the smallness in politics. Yet during Tuesday's debate that you had with Senator Cruz, you took a page right out of President Trump's playbook and you called Senator Cruz Lion Ted. Why did you do that?
Yeah. So there have been untold dollars spent on TV ads that are lies, that are dishonest, trying to scare you about me, trying to incite people based on fear. I went through a whole debate at SMU with Senator Cruz where he made up one story after another. And so at the very outset, when he began with yet another lie, I decided that I could either spend the rest of the debate responding to every single dishonest thing that he said, or I could make sure that everyone understood exactly what he's doing. I said, look, he's dishonest. It's one of the reasons that he got tagged with this nickname, and that nickname resonates because it's true. But I got to tell you, it's not something that I feel totally comfortable with. And perhaps in the heat of the moment, I took a step too far. And,
you regret it?
You know, I don't know that that's the way that I want to be talking in this campaign. But I also heard from so many people, including many here, that you know, as we focus on the future and define ourselves by our ambitions, all those things that I talked about earlier that we should be able to achieve and to lead on, to not answer to these attacks when your opponent says you want to legalize heroin, or that you want to take everyone's guns away, or that you want to open the border, it can invite you know, confusion or questions by people. And so I want to make sure that people know that that's not true. That's dishonest. And then I also want to make sure that there's a contrast offered on everything that we want to do, from immigration to education to healthcare. The choice could not be any more clear.
We're going to get to an audience member in 1 second. I just want to put a button on this because it's interesting that that was the answer, that you seem to have a little bit of regret for doing that. You weren't planning on doing it because Senator Cruz said to you, your pollsters clearly
that's another lie. I don't have a pollster. I don't need...
For your campaign. It was not planned.
I don't poll.
It just came out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the issues here. The next question comes from Angie Rogers, who lives in Richardson, Texas. In 2015, her 24-year-old son, Brandon, died of a heroin overdose. Angie.
Howdy. Congressman O'Rourke, the neuroscience shows that the human brain continues to develop into the mid-20s. Marijuana use in the developing brain has been associated with the development of mental health disorders such as addiction, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, among others. As a mama of a forever 24-year-old son whose substance use began in his teens with alcohol and marijuana and ended tragically with heroin, I have concerns about legalizing substances. How will legalization curb substance use in this emerging adult population?
Thank you for being here and for having the courage to share your story and your son's story. And I know I speak for everyone when we say that we are so sorry for your loss and so grateful that you are here. We lose 70,000 of our fellow Americans to drug overdose deaths. We can continue to treat this as a criminal justice issue, or we can show real caring and compassion and treat it as a public health issue. Make sure that people who have addictions get the care and the help that they need. Here, in the least insured state in the country, we understand some of the consequences of not being there for one another. Maybe it's our chance to take the lead. You asked specifically about marijuana, and I agree with the findings that you cited. As your brain is still forming, to use marijuana in shorthand that I can understand will diminish your chances in life. You won't reach the potential that you would have had you not used it. It's why I want to make sure that we have smart drug control policy. This war on drugs that we've been waging for more than 50 years, 50 years later, more than $1 trillion spent, marijuana is, if not just as, more available than it was at the beginning. It's increasingly being sold in high schools, and as the father of a 6th grader who just entered middle school, that's one of the fastest growing markets, and those kids are absolutely defenseless. I want to make sure that we do the right thing by keeping that drug, that substance, away from kids, away from the vulnerable, the proceeds away from the cartels and kingpins and criminals. I also want to make sure that for those veterans who do not want to be prescribed an opioid, to which they may become addicted, that doctor at the VA who would rather prescribe medicinal cannabis here in this state do not become outlaws for wanting to do so. I want to acknowledge that we have the largest prison population per capita on the face of the planet here in the United States, many serving time for possession of a substance that is perfectly legal or decriminalized or medicinalized in more than half the states in the Union. I think we can do the right thing. Politically, not easy, but we can have that conversation amongst each other and make sure that those who need it to be able to do better, whose doctors believe that that prescription will reduce their pain, ease their suffering, improve their outcomes, are allowed to do that. That we stop trying to incarcerate our way through that problem. And those who have serious addictions to opioids get the treatment and the care and the help that they need. And lastly, those who foisted this epidemic of opioid addiction on this country. Pharmaceutical companies like Purdue, which got off with a slap on the wrist, pay the full consequences, that there is justice and accountability served for those lives that have been lost in this country so far. Until we have that, this problem will not end. And so I'm grateful again that you were here and that you brought this and raised this to everyone's attention today. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Congressman, to follow up, there's a question about legalization of drugs, and I want to read what you said in 2009 at an El Paso City Council meeting. You brought up ending the prohibition on narcotics in the U.S., and you said, quote, "I think we need to have a serious discussion about doing that, and that may, in the end, be the right course of action." How do you explain to a mom like Angie why there should be a serious discussion about legalizing narcotics, which includes heroin?
Yeah. In 2009, when I was on the El Paso City Council, Ciudad Juarez, our sister city, was the deadliest place on the planet, bar none. Why? There was a drug war raging there, in part to satisfy the appetite for illegal drugs in this country, in part due to our prohibitionary, incarceration-first policy that had created such a premium on crossing those drugs that kids were literally willing to die or to kill one another for the privilege of crossing something here into the United States. I thought we owed ourselves, as a country, our sister city of Ciudad Juarez, a conversation on the best way forward. Now, that resolution or that amendment that I offered to the resolution was inartful at best. What I was trying to get to was marijuana, the cornerstone of the drug trade economy. And to clarify the position, and anyone can look this up, Susie Bird, my colleague on the City Council, and I wrote an entire book on the subject. And what we focus on is marijuana policy from the perspective of the front lines of the drug war in communities like this one, in communities like El Paso, and talk about an approach that would reduce the problems that we have and improve the outcomes. So to be clear, I don't want to legalize narcotics. I do think we should end the prohibition on marijuana and effectively control and regulate its sale and make sure those who need it for medicinal purposes are able to obtain it through a prescription from their doctor.
Thank you. You talk about health care. You have made health care a core issue in your campaign. You say Texas should expand Obamacare. Of course, Senator Cruz, your opponent, wants to repeal it. The next question comes from Michelle Neighbors from Menchaca, Texas. She is the mother of 3-year-old Jack, who was born with a heart defect.
Hi.
Hey, Michelle.
Congressman, I believe that everyone should have access to quality health care, especially because my son was born with a severe heart condition in 2015. It seems like Medicare for all would be the best way to ensure that everybody has the care that they need. But like many families in 2018, political conversations surrounding the single-payer Medicare for all systems leads to divisive debates and untruths. Can you explain how Medicare for all will benefit Texans?
Yeah. Michelle, thank you for being here and sharing your story and that of your son. Nearly half of Texans under the age of 65 have a pre-existing condition. I mentioned that we are the least insured state in the United States of America. Hard to believe that in the year 2018, in the wealthiest, the most powerful country on the planet, we have people crowdfunding insulin treatment for diabetes. School teachers succumbing to the flu because they don't have a $119 copay for the flu medication that they need to keep them alive. Parents like you living in anxiety, wondering whether those pre-existing conditions will continue to be protected when you have a junior senator who has promised to repeal every single word of the Affordable Care Act, including those protections for pre-existing conditions. Here are some steps we could take towards the ultimate goal that you described. One, we could expand Medicaid. This state left $100 billion on the table, starting at the moment when the federal government was going to spend 100 cents on the dollar to expand the program, ensuring that more families got more care. We could introduce Medicare as an option on the exchanges. Concerned about rising premium costs? So am I. Let's control them with some downward pressure by introducing Medicare as an option. Lower price, expands selection and choice, and ensures, again, that more people get more care. Now, on this last part of it, it could be Medicare for all. It could be another universal guaranteed high-quality healthcare system like employer-based insurance complemented by those who can purchase into Medicaid or Medicare. There are many roads that will get us there, but if we define the goal by these values, everyone is well enough to live to their full potential. Everyone can see a doctor, afford their prescriptions, take their child to a therapist. It's guaranteed, it's high quality, and it's universal. I know that this state, which understands the consequences of failing to do that far better than any other, can lead the way. And I'll work with any of my colleagues in the Senate, regardless of party. I'll work with this administration and White House to make sure that we get there. It may not happen all at once. It may take us some time. We can't allow the perfect to become the enemy of the good. But if we keep our eyes on the prize, if we remember stories like yours and your son Jack's and others who need us to be there for them right now, keep the urgency of this moment when we get to the Senate, I'm confident that we can get there. Thank you for the question, raising the story. Thank you.
Congressman, let's turn to the MeToo movement. The next question comes from Lorena Perez. She is a biology major at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley.
Good evening, Congressman. With the current culture in America, it's become way too easy to dismiss victims, but it's also become easy to blame and label men and women as rapists out of revenge. How do you plan on protecting men and women from false allegations while still giving victims the justice and serious consideration they deserve?
Lorena, thank you for being here and asking a really important question. The presumption of innocence is incredibly important. So is ensuring that we listen to survivors. And I have been struck by the courage of these survivors coming forward from all walks of life, all areas of industry, including in government. The testimony of Dr. Ford, the incredible courage that she showed in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee with nothing to gain and so much to lose, from her privacy to having to leave her home to reliving one of the most traumatic experiences of her life in full view for the entire country to see and for every member of the Senate to take apart and dissect. So I want to make sure that we honor the courage of those who have come forward and that we listen to their stories and we ensure that there are the necessary thorough investigations that should follow serious allegations like those made by Dr. Ford. I want to make sure, as Amy and I are trying to do, that we teach our kids how to ensure that they are respected themselves and show respect to others. Treat everybody with the dignity that they are deserving as humans. I've joined legislation authored by my colleague Jackie Spear to make sure that we hold members of Congress to this same high standard. I've gotten behind legislation like the Violence Against Women's Act or VAWA to make sure that there are the resources necessary to protect women and others who are in abusive relationships that need our help. So I think we can do all of this in this country. And I know that not because of those in positions of power or public trust already, but from those who are standing up and coming forward and sharing their stories. So thank you for asking this important question tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Congressman, thank you. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more from CNN's Town Hall with Beto O'Rourke.
Your call will be answered by the next available representative. Thank you for holding. How may I assist you?
We were just broken into, and we need a home security system.
Oh, sorry. Wrong department. Please hold.
The best home security isn't hard to get. With Simply Safe, you can get comprehensive, professionally monitored home security online without the hold time or runaround. Order today and get free shipping. You'll feel safe at home or your money back. Go to staysimplysafe.com.
Come with us to a new world, deeper than the ocean, as unfathomable as the universe, a world that doesn't exist outside you, but within you, where breakthrough science is replacing chemotherapy with immunotherapy, where we can now attack the causes of disease, not just the symptoms, where medicines once produced for all are now designed to fit you. Today, 140,000 biopharmaceutical researchers go boldly to discover treatments and cures unimaginable 10 years ago and are on the verge of more tomorrow.
Your digestive system has billions of bacteria, but life can throw them off balance. Realign yourself with Align Probiotic. And try new Align gummies with prebiotics and probiotics to help support digestive health.
A country divided, a critical election, a crucial question. Who will win the chance to shape America's future? Election Night in America, Tuesday, November 6th on CNN.
This one looks empty. What do you think?
Oh, dude, stop. I got a ring.
What are we supposed to do?
Well,
tell you what I'd do. I'd start running.
Let's maybe just
now, gentlemen,
okay,
hustle!
Go.
Does your doorbell do that? Ours does. Get tough on crime with the Ring Video Doorbell. Keep your home and your neighborhood safe. Available at ring.com.
How do you feel when someone is looking over your shoulder? Not all snoopers can be seen. Cyber criminals can steal your sensitive information. Hackers can intercept your data on public Wi-Fi. But not with the NordVPN app. It helps protect your privacy by encrypting your online data. And it's so easy to use. NordVPN, your shield from online snoopers. Download and enjoy trusted internet security and privacy.
Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown, Far West Texas, Sunday at 9 on CNN.
Welcome back to the McAllen Performing Arts Center and CNN's Town Hall with Beto O'Rourke. For our viewers just joining us, Senator Ted Cruz declined our town hall invitation. And Congressman, I want to talk about the issue that is a big one in Texas, and it really does divide you and Senator Cruz in a big way, and that's guns. Senator Cruz has an A+ rating from the NRA. You carry your F rating from the NRA as a badge of honor. I want to bring in Edna Cantu. She's a retired school registrar from Houston.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Congressman.
Hi there.
So I've heard people tell me and say that you want to take away their guns. And I know that in this country, I don't think you can go and take away their personal property. Can you clarify that? Because it's a little confusing. And what exactly are you proposing?
I strongly support the Second Amendment. I don't want to take yours or anyone else's guns. I want to make sure that we, the people of Texas, who have this extraordinary, proud, long tradition of responsible and safe gun ownership for hunting, for sport, for collection, for self-defense, that we use this pride of place and our knowledge and experience to lead the national conversation that this country has been waiting for. We lose 30,000 of our fellow Americans every year to gun violence. No developed country even comes close. So there's either something wrong with us, something bad, something evil about the United States of America, or there is a human solution to a human-caused problem. I think that's what we, the people of Texas, believe. And we can start with areas where there is extraordinary common ground amongst gun owners and non-gun owners alike, Republicans and Democrats. Things like universal background checks. And those states that have adopted them, we've seen a near 50% reduction in serious gun crimes. So fewer police officers and sheriff's deputies being shot by those they are sworn to serve and protect. Fewer girlfriends and boyfriends being shot by an intimate partner. In fact, this is a position supported by the police chiefs here in the state of Texas. Despite the fact that we are purported to be the world's greatest democracy, the Senate, the world's greatest deliberative body, there have been precisely zero debates and discussions about gun violence and gun safety in the last 6 years. We need someone who could not care.
Number one in wage growth. So how do you explain the fact that the Republicans should be replaced? Why aren't the Donald Trump and Ted Cruz economic policies actually working based on those numbers?
Because those benefits and that wealth is not flowing to those who create the value in the first place. When you have somebody working full-time and living below the poverty line, that's not just. When you have school teachers in this state, half of whom work in a second or third job just to make ends meet, given the fact that their primary job is perhaps the most important one in our community and for our country, that's not right. When you have a junior senator who wants to turn our tax dollars into vouchers, take them out of those classrooms, away from those public school teachers at a time that we desperately need more, not less investment, that's not right. So a higher minimum wage so that you can work one job and focus on that and your family, and investing in the next generation, and investment in education, starting public education, not in kindergarten, but in pre-K. Now that doesn't come cheap. It's not easy to do, but it's an investment that pays dividends. If we put $76 billion up over the next 10 years, for every dollar we put in, we get $9 back. That's a $650 billion return on that 76 that we put in. That ensures that we have the educated workforce for the future. Some kids on the first day of kindergarten start 12 months behind in reading comprehension, 10 months back in math. I'd rather follow the lead of communities like San Antonio and move that starting line back so that it's the same one for every single child over the long term, investing in teachers, in public education, and access to higher education, and a higher minimum wage, in healthcare so that you're well enough to go to that job. We're going to see returns over and beyond the initial cost and investment that we make.
And you mentioned education. One of the things that's got a lot of the young people interested in your campaign is that you say you're in favor of 2 years of free state or community college, but you also admit that's not cheap. That's going to be expensive. So how are you going to pay for it? Will you raise taxes in order to pay for 2 years of free college?
The cost estimate on ensuring that every single one of us is able to at least complete 2 years of higher education, that could be your associate's degree or the first 2 years of your bachelor's without taking on debt, it's estimated to be about $60 billion over the next 10 years. To put this in perspective, we just lowered the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. The estimate is if we took it back up, not to where it was, but to perhaps to 25 or 26%, we'd generate between $500 to $600 billion. Now, I just mentioned those two investments in pre-K at $76 billion, in higher education at $60 billion. We could make that decision that we're going to invest in one another. We have the resources to do it. So yes, on the corporate tax rate, I'd move that corporate tax rate up higher, not to where it was, but high enough to generate the revenue, to make sure that everyone, especially those corporations, which are doing just fine, in fact, better than ever, pay their fair share so that all of us can get ahead.
Congressman, in this campaign, you have raised more than $60 million in campaign contributions. That's more than double, just for perspective and context, what Senator Cruz has brought in. Bain Herrera is here with a question about that. He's a second-year medical student at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley.
Hello.
Hi there.
Congressman O'Rourke, I listened to you talk about bringing other people along, working together, investing in the success of others. I've seen a lot of publicity recently about the $63 million your campaign has raised. It's amazing. You've done it all without accepting a dime of PAC dollar. That's amazing. My question is, what would you tell Texans who think you're being selfish with your political campaign money at the expense of the Democratic Party? And what will you be doing with the millions your campaign has raised to ensure a strong Democratic turnout in competitive races?
Thank you for being here, and thanks for asking. To provide some context, it's been 30 years since 1988, Lloyd Bentsen, since Texas elected a Democrat to the Senate. It has been precisely since forever that El Paso had a statewide elected office holder. We really have our work cut out for us. We're the largest of the lower 48, 254 counties. I want to make sure that we spare no expense, use every possible resource to make sure that we reach every single person. As I said earlier, we're writing no one off. You can't be too Republican for us to reach out to you and bring you into this campaign. You can't be too much of a Democrat for us to not want to hear your story as well. That takes money. Those are resources that we need to use. Last week I was in McKinney, Texas, and I met a young woman, 25 years old, who was on her way to her shift at Whataburger. She gave me a $10 donation. And she said, I'm giving this to you because I want you to win. I'm giving this to you because I had a significant medical condition from which I'm recovering. It's been very hard to get insurance to afford to see that doctor. I'm going to work at Whataburger right now to put myself through school so that I can have a better job going forward. I don't want to take her $10 and give it to another candidate in another state or another race here in Texas if she gave it to me to pursue the goals that we have in common. This is the election of our lifetimes. The future and the fortune and the fate, not just of Texas, but I would argue this country hinges on our ability to be successful when we turn out to the polls on the 22nd of October, the first day of early voting, and November 6th, Election Day. So I want to make sure that we not only run this in the right way, but that we win this in the right way. And I'm going to use every single dollar to make sure that we do. Thank you for the question.
Congressman, thank you. And we'll be right back with more of CNN's Town Hall with Beto O'Rourke.